Now I tell you something. A lot of subsidies have been removed from other products which people don't know. People are not protesting because they won't cost. Kerosene is very expensive. You know that. Subsidies have actually been removed from kerosene. But kerosene doesn't touch everybody's life as much as petrol.
How about diesel?
Diesel is exactly the same thing with diesel. A lot of subsidy have been removed from diesel. Diesel is there in the market, very expensive. But people are not protesting because it doesn't touch everybody's life. I have a diesel generator, 40 kVA, which I have abandoned for a long time. I don't use it anymore. And I go to pass my neighbor to use because I can't afford the price of the diesel. So I could do with that.
Now, we will begin this conversation by taking a quote from Felipe Calderon, who served as the 63rd president of Mexico, or Mexico, like you know it, from 1st December 2006 to 30th November 2012, and also Secretary of Energy. He once said that we need to remove fossil fuel subsidies right now. Or, in other words, we need to establish the right economic incentives to move towards all the way sustainable projects, in particular in infrastructure. That implies putting a price on carbon everywhere. All right, now let's see how this quote relates to what we'll be discussing tonight. But first, let's take our second quote to see how this relates to what we will be discussing tonight. And this one is from Agule, former Secretary General of the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, that's OECD, since 2006. He once said that countries need to demonstrate with concrete actions and policies that they are serious about combating climate change. Reforming harmful fossil fuel support is a good place to start. All right then. Let's see how this relates to what we will be discussing tonight. Warm greetings and welcome to the conversation. We are reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now, a National Bureau of Statistics report shows that intra-city transport fares in Nigeria have increased by 283% on the average amid the rising cost of fuel subsidy to the federal government. The average cost of bus transportation within Nigeria cities rose from 122 naira 3883 kobo in January, that's in January 2017, to 470 naira 83 kobo in December 2021. That's reports have actually shown. Now, this means that the cost of intra-city bus transportation has risen by 283% or 384 naira in 4 years. Now, this is according to an analysis of data from the Transport Fare Watch report of the National Bureau of Statistics. However, despite the massive increase in cost of bus transportation, the average price of petrol increased by only 11.48% within the period or on the review. Now, the average price paid by consumers for premium motor spirit increased from 148 naira 7 kobo in July 2017 to 165 naira in December 2021. And just as the cost of bus transportation, the cost of fuel subsidy has also been increasing, as within the 4-year period on the review, the cost of fuel subsidy rose by 889.41%. Now, economic and energy experts continue to decry the rising cost of fuel subsidy to the federal government. The World Bank and the International Monetary Fund have decried the federal government's huge spending on petrol subsidy, urging the government to end the regime. Although the federal government had planned to stop subsidizing fuel by June 2022, government last week backtracked on the plan. The government subsequently said that the proposed removal of fuel subsidy would be extended by 18 months. It also said that the development meant that the Petroleum Industry Act would be reviewed and sent back to the National Assembly. Several groups described the decision of the All Progressive Congress-led government to suspend the petrol subsidy removal as an elections strategy. Now, meanwhile, the NNPC has requested a total of 3 trillion naira from the government to fund fuel subsidy in 2022. It was earlier reported that this administration plans to push its public debt stock to 50.22 trillion naira by 2023, with domestic debt at 28.75 trillion naira and external debt at 21.47 trillion naira. That's according to the projections in the National Development Plan 2021 to 2025. Now, on the other news, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has said it spent 100 billion naira on refineries rehabilitation in 2021 and that funds were pumped into revamping the facilities on a monthly basis last year. Although no refinery was mentioned in the report, Nigeria's refineries had been under the management of NNPC as the rehabilitation of one of the facilities, that's Port Harcourt Refinery Company, had been ongoing. So other refineries under the NNPC's management include the Kaduna Refinery and Petrochemical Company, as well as the Warri Refinery and Petrochemical Company. Now, that is the big issue on the conversation tonight, and I will be your host. If you've just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from Captain's Television Studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now we have our guest. He is Sleek Oshare, an oil and gas expert. You're welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Annabelle.
Great to have you here in our studios. Now let's start by getting your opening remarks on fuel subsidy. A lot of people actually don't know what that means, and then you remember when they started that fight or that protest on fuel subsidy, you realize that some people don't even know what it means. Everybody's shouting, we want fuel subsidy removal. Some people are saying, no, it's a scam, but then they don't even know what that means. So yes, we've heard you say, talk about fuel subsidy removal, but we'd like you to reiterate, what is fuel subsidy first?
The fuel subsidy is the extra amount the federal government pay to the sellers of petroleum products. If petroleum products were to be valued, to be priced at the correct price, at what they call the appropriate prices, the prices will be higher than what the public is paying now. In order to take the pains of the high cost from the public, the government compensate by paying a little extra on top of it for the marketers. So the marketers will not just go out and put any price they want. That is the fuel subsidy. Now, the origin of the fuel subsidy is traced back to the structural adjustment program of the then government of President Ibrahim Babangida.
Okay.
I
thought it actually started with Shehu Shagari.
Well, at that time it hasn't. No.
Okay.
When the structural adjustment came, before then the naira was equivalent to 65 kobo was equivalent to $1, and oil at that time was being sold. Oil is being sold in dollars. When the structural adjustment came and the World Bank and IMF insisted that the naira was too strong, we have to devalue the naira, put it in the open market, which we are doing now, and it was devalued to 3 naira 50 kobo to the dollar.
Okay.
As at that time, the question came, how much do we have to sell the oil to the domestic refineries? The Nigerian refineries, that's Warri Refinery, Kaduna Refinery, Port Harcourt Refinery. How much do we sell it to the refineries? Because we are not selling we are not charging in dollars. Oil is sold in dollar. If we sell the oil to international company outside this country, we will be getting 3 naira 50 kobo to the dollar. Now, before then, we are selling the oil to the domestic refinery at $1.
Okay.
at $1, which was approximately 1 naira. So what do we do now? Instead of getting 3 naira 50 kobo back, do we still give it to Nigeria refinery at 1 naira? The NNPC, the federal government, look at it, say yes. If we move it to 3 naira 50 kobo, which was the international equivalent, international price of the oil that time, the price of oil, petroleum products will be too high.
Okay.
And the Nigerian people will protest. Therefore, to keep the price steady, we should sell it at $1 or at 1 naira to the domestic refinery. The excess of 2 naira 50 kobo, which we were now forfeiting, was now regarded as a subsidy.
Okay.
So there wasn't any money payback to the marketers or to the refinery, but that amount we were forfeiting was now recorded as subsidy.
Okay.
That was what we continue. But over the years, as the effect of social adjustment program was taking pains on the Nigerian system, and then the production of domestic products was also reducing, we were now depending more on foreign products. And the time would come when the refineries will go under maintenance. We will not have enough to supply to the local market from our domestic refinery. We will have to augment the shortfall by importing products from international markets.
Okay.
That quantity we were importing from international markets to fill up the gap of the shortfall was at a higher price than the domestic product we're having. So how do you compensate for the higher price while keeping the pump price at home as it was? So the federal government had to pay the extra cost to the importers in order to maintain the standard. That extra we are not paying was again the subsidy on petroleum products.
Okay.
Over the years, as we were getting decay, we were decaying, the economy was decaying, the refineries were decaying, and the decadence of refinery was again sometimes natural, sometimes deliberate. We are now forced to be depending on foreign importation of products. And as we are importing, the price of crude oil was also escalating, which means the cost of bringing it in was also increasing. But we still have to maintain a price at home that will not create social unrest in the country. And so the subsidy, the government kept on paying, offsetting the excess that the marketers were informing.
Okay.
So that's how the subsidy came about.
Okay.
And before we knew, it went out of hand. Like you say, is the subsidy is scam or real? The subsidy is real, and at the same time, it's scam.
Okay, we will definitely get to that to get more perspective on why you think that it is real and it is still a scam. All right. Now you say that fuel subsidy removal, it's a scam, and then you say it is not a scam. So let's get to understand why you think that it is a scam, and at the same time, it is not a scam.
It is not a scam because what we are paying for products at the pump price is lower than international market.
Okay.
And the landing cost is actually higher than what we can cope with. And check our neighbor, the Republic of Benin. You see petroleum products are higher there. Go to Niger Republic, go to Chad Republic, go to Cameroon. So
you agree with that school of thought that Nigeria pay lesser for fuel than other countries?
We pay lesser for fuel
and
the pump price. That is one. That is why I say it's not a scam. It is real. Then the second one why I say it's a scam is that the quantity being paid for is more than what is real. In the sense, our consumption, our presumed consumption is higher than what actually is, because a lot of it is being smuggled out of this country to Republic of Togo, to Benin, because like I've said earlier on, the prices there are higher. So there are people who make money by smuggling across the borders to those countries.
Okay.
So those quantities being smuggled out is not our consumption. So we're actually subsidizing for the smugglers and those ones. Then two, I don't think the papers are well documented. The papers that are presented to demand for the payment of them, I think we have seen it before, where we have seen people, all over the world, we've seen people where subsidy payments were made for products that were not imported. And that system has not been fully closed. So that's why I say, come on, we see a situation where somebody had to be putting dollars in his hat, in this cap from the National Assembly then, just because he had to deal with marketers. These are all our national. So if we wouldn't mention their names, it won't be any offense. We saw them try to kill them.
It would be a good thing if you mention their names.
No, we know that we see them with all the NT and everything. People were prosecuted and they had the prosecution, and there were others who had to eventually, in order to buy their way out, remember the transformation this transformation ambassadors of Nigeria. We knew how those kind of came out. So that system where if we got 100,000 liters of fuel, and we subsidize for about 220,000 liters of fuel. So that little extra of it, I would regard that as a scam. That's what I mean by scam.
Okay.
But it is real. Subsidy is free. We know the price of crude oil. We know we don't produce oil. We know the international price of oil, and we know the value of the naira. How low the naira is. For $1 today is about 570 naira. And if we bring crude oil or petroleum product worth of $1 into this country, how much are you buying it for? It's free. Subsidy is free.
Okay.
It's very, very real.
So personally, are you for or against fuel subsidy removal?
Before I used to say I'm not for it, but now I say I'm not for it for one reason. Petroleum product, petrol especially, I kept on insisting, it's a social product, it's a political product, and it's an economic product.
Okay.
As a social product, it touches the life of everybody. It makes all of us happy. It makes our life go round. We're able to move, our mobility, our entertainment, our lighting. So it makes us happy in that sense of it. So it's a social product. As a social product, it touches the lives of everybody. And as a political product, the lives of people determine the political stability of the people. If the people are unhappy, then the polity is also unhappy. The polity becomes unstable. So it's a political product because anything, if you tamper with it, it will destabilize the entire stage. I can bet you, raise the price of petrol today by 100% or by 200%, you and I can come out. It will be spontaneous. So it's a political product.
Okay.
It's an economic product because it touches the lives of the people in the sense that we need mobility to move the products, to move farm products from the farm to the cities. We need to move them out. So economic activities, it affects economic activities of the people. The hairdresser, the small generator she uses, the barber, the vulcanizer. So it's economic activity. And if you see that informal sector of the economy, it is the base of the entire economy. If the hairdresser is not working, if the barber is not working, if the vulcanizer is not working, in fact, some cars cannot even move. If the farmers are not working, those are the things. What happened? The entire economy is in trouble. Like we used to say in my place, even the richest man needs a sweeper. So if the sweeper cannot go to his house to go and clean it, the economy is the moment the cleaner can go to the homes and clean the people, they're able to eat a little thing. So, and they need for them to move. And when they come back on, so It's an economic problem, it's a political product, it's a social product. And any of those three things must engage seriously the attention of government. And if government neglects any of those three things, then there's no government.
Okay,
then we have no
so taking a cue from what you just said,
yes,
from where you landed. Now, why is it so difficult for the government to remove the subsidy in such a way that it doesn't pose any threat on the economy or lead to massive effect of price of everything? Because like you said, that the price of oil, of fuel will actually affect everything, even things that are non-oil.
Yeah, you see, the thing is that if you increase the price of oil by 10 naira, other people will increase the price of other things by more than that percentage. 10 naira is just is less than barely a few percentage of one system, but every other person will go up.
Starting from the transport workers.
That was why one government, I can't remember either the Babangida government or Obasanjo one government say, okay, if you remove 10 naira, they will see protest. So let's remove all of it. So let the protest come once and for all. It didn't work. It didn't work. So it doesn't go that way. Now I tell you something. A lot of subsidies have been removed from other products, which people don't know. People are not protesting because they won't cost. Kerosene is very expensive. You know that. Subsidies have actually been removed from kerosene. But kerosene doesn't touch everybody's life as much as petrol.
How about diesel?
Diesel is exactly the same thing with diesel. A lot of subsidy have been removed for diesel. Diesel is there in the market, very expensive. But people are not protesting because it doesn't touch everybody's hand. I have a diesel generator, 40 kVA, which I have abandoned for a long time. I don't use it anymore. I now go to ask my neighbor to use because I can't afford the price of the diesel. So I could do with that. I didn't protest the government.
So what is it with fuel? PMS, exactly.
The fuel problem is this. The motor vehicles. Go to the street. The vehicles, you know, the number of cars on the street, millions of cars on the street. The mobility of the people is tied to it. There's no public transport like in London, in UK, for example. If you buy a car, it's just maybe because a little convenience once a week, once in a while. You want to go to church or something once in a while. You don't need a car in London. The underground is there. Mass transit, the rails are there. The buses, every street, virtually every street in London is covered by bus. It's covered by bus. So people don't really bother. You have your bus ticket, but you don't have that in Nigeria. So everybody look at the Okada, the number of Okada that moves, the number of Keke that moves. So the petrol touches the life. That's why I keep on saying that the petrol is a social product, it's a political product, and as an economic product, right there in the village. Then go to the creeks, the waterways, all the fiber, all the speedboats. They are moved by fuel. They are moved by petrol. Do you want us to smoke? How are they going to move the fish? How are they going to move their farm products? Everybody, communication. Now, coming elections are coming. How are you going to go on campaigns without the boats moving, without the Okada moving?
Okay, we'll come to that election.
So it touches the life of everybody. Everybody.
Okay, we'll definitely come back to that. So now, seeing that government has come, government has gone, but yeah, this fuel subsidy is still there. It's still been something that we, like you talked about, it started with IBB or maybe with Shehu Shagari, and then
with Shehu Shagari.
Okay, with IBB,
yes.
It became pronounced in IBB's administration. But now this fuel subsidy, this evil, or what they call fuel subsidy, it has still been there, biting very hard. And then with all of this, and that, like some people have actually said that it has been the major cause of corruption. So now, do you think that we will ever at any time be able to fight and win this war against fuel subsidy?
Yeah, we win it when we have a government that has a will. So far, no government has had the will to fight the fuel subsidy or to abolish the fuel subsidy. There are two ways to it. The first one is the exchange rates.
Okay.
In 1980, 84, 85, 86, 87, when the World Bank, the IMF was saying that the Naira was so strong, they were actually saying that Nigeria was too strong. Nigeria was taking over Africa. Nigeria was too strong for the West. They felt Nigeria was going to take over Africa, was going to dominate Africa, was going to be and of course Nigeria was also very strong and the forefront member of the non-annihilation. And one of the ways to weaken Nigeria then, to break Nigeria then, was to reduce the currency. And they actually reduced the currency. When they said the Naira was too strong, they sent the economic hitmen to Nigeria and brought the Naira and broke it down. So first thing to do is to reevaluate the exchange rate, the currency. If we make the currency stronger, if we can make the currency stronger by whatever way they do it, only the economy is if we make it stronger, then the price of the imported product will not be as high as it is now, because the Naira would have been strong enough to be at that par. Secondly, and which is very fundamental, increase production of domestic product. If you increase the production, if you build the refineries, you make the refineries work at a minimum of 80% of utilization, then they will have enough product. Because actually, in the early 80s, in the late 70s and early 80s, the projection we had in this country was that we will produce enough product in this country, and then we will supply, we export to neighboring African countries, especially the West African sub-region. That was what we had in mind. If we increase the refineries and make them perform maximally, then we cannot determine at what price we will sell the crude oil to those domestic refineries. And once we do that, the product will be within the range that we don't need to put any subsidy.
Okay, now because you talked about supplying to neighboring countries, now there have been reports that Nigeria supply PMS to neighboring countries at subsidized rates. Who pays for that?
No, like I said, it's smuggled. Oh, it's smuggled. There was one time, you see, we are very ambivalent, or we are very contradictory people. This government closed the borders. We closed the borders so that this smuggling thing, we are the same Nigerians who criticize the government. Why do you close the border? Because we like sabotaging ourselves. Then we came further. After much pressure, the president opened the borders. Then they also came. Now, let's keep the nearest petrol station 20 kilometers away from the border. We protested because we are the smugglers. We hate ourselves. We are ready to deny ourselves in order to bring the thing, to bring money in. So most of it, any petrol going out of this is smuggled. It's not official. It's not official. That is the problem we have. Okay. That's why I said, if we make our refineries functional, because we are good at mouthing, oh, we want modular refinery, we want it. None of them is here. I was in service some years back, when 18 refineries were approved. Licenses given. And they cried, oh, we want the most independent refineries. They gave them licenses.
But now we hear that less than 3 of them are working.
You know what they came back to say? No, you see, the government should allocate crude oil for them to export for about 3 or 4 years, so that they will raise the money to build the refinery. These are people who have been clamoring for refinery. You see the insincerity in whatever we do. The insincerity, we don't have government policies, we sabotage government policies, we want to crave for quick money without doing this kind of thing. So sorry to cut
in on there. Now, you keep saying we. Who are these people that are benefiting from all of this?
Oh, you want me to name them? They are all out there. The big men, they're all like the marketers, the politicians. And note the politicians, the importers, the people who make some of the decisions. And note one thing: most of their children are not in this country. Check them. Go to National Assembly. Go check the ministers out. Check the governors out. Check these people out. So the whole thing that there hasn't been any patriotic approach, even to giving the licenses, supervising them, ensuring them ensuring a compliance with your application. They're not there. When Dangote wanted to start a refinery, they didn't need anybody to bully. He went ahead to start his refinery. If those people say, government, give us license, want motor, why are they not starting their refinery? The licenses have been given to them. But they're asking for something. They are not even genuinely in their mind ready for a refinery. They are thinking that, okay, if we are, many times they say, sell Warri refinery to us, sell Kaduna refinery to us, sell Port Harcourt refinery. And we ask them, what experience do you have to run refinery? If you think you actually run refinery, why are you waiting for the government to set that government? Why don't you set your own up? So they need a government who must have conviction. And in one of these programs, I've said it before, that sometimes to get things right in this country, we need to bridge the rights of some people. We need to ignore some people's cry, because the crocodile tears they share. We need to get there and get it. So we have to get our refineries functioning.
Okay. Now let's talk about refineries. Now, some pundits have actually reiterated that our refineries are obsolete and it's another means of corruption and then in the country. So even when they come on stream, that they are not going to be enough, they cannot produce enough that Nigerians will consume. So now, in your own opinion, if our refineries, or when it starts running, from the last you checked and you talked about, you have the Dangote refineries, which is actually coming up very fast.
In September.
So when by the time all the refineries are up and running, how much, if it would even affect, how much would it affect, make any impact on the transportation cost, on the price and the supply of PMS?
Yeah, the supply and prices of PMS will be more stable.
Okay.
They will be more stable because they will be supplied by local production, crude oil. We have our crude oil, so we'll be able to moderate the price. So the cost of production of crude oil will determine how much we'll be selling the crude oil to the refineries. And the cost of production will not be rising erratically. And two, we put our monetary system in shape in such a way that the currency will also be controlled. So things will be more steady. Things will be more steady. I can assure you of that. I'm talking about repair refinery. I've said it before, and I still insist. Lease the refineries to the workers. It will be a miracle. Lease the refineries. When refinery, for example, lease it to Warri refinery workers. Lease it to them.
But you were the one person that just said that we are the same people that are complaining of refineries, modular refineries.
Not the workers there. I'm talking about the unscrupulous entrepreneurs. That's what I refer to.
Okay.
Lease the refineries to the Warri refinery workers. Lease it to them. Tell them, say, we lease this refinery to you for 10 years. Run it and pay us some amount of money. I bet you, those workers, they also get some of their workers. They will go to the people who build that refinery. It's a loan. They know it's a loan. Banks are going to put money there. The workers will work is their own. They will work it out and pay you. You'll be surprised. Now, why it won't work? The workers are there. You ignore them. Then you are here in Abuja, planning, passing paper here and there, using federal character to determine what will happen, using so many political things, oversight National Assembly to do that. And the rich people, you ignore them, they are there. Then you come out, you see, they will come out in Abuja from what we call textbook approach. That textbook, not a practical. The textbook says you should do like that. 2 + 2 will go to 3 like that. No, on the ground, no. You ignore the people. They laugh. The workers say they laugh. They look at you. The paper will go from Warri or from Port Harcourt to Abuja. It will take 2 months to get to Abuja and stay another 2 months on the table of those who matter before it moves to the National Assembly, move to the National Executive Council, and came back. And the workers say, time is running. You are negotiating. You need to reach the central bank to do this. Lease that thing out. Dangote system is not going to that system.
Okay.
He's not going to that. Dangote takes it share with his partners. He doesn't own it 100%. With his partners, they are taking this one. We're going to do. And it's going. Lease it to the refiner. Lease it to the workers. The worker will send that. They know some of the retired workers who are affected. They'll bring that down. They'll bring Saipen in. Saipen will come. They will talk.
All right. So now with the PIA that was recently passed, let's talk about the Petroleum Industry Act, now, which does not actually have any provisions for subsidy. Now, don't you think that the government is defying that act that has been signed and agreed? And what exactly are the implications of this to our country?
Well, right from beginning, and I spoke on this on one media, one television had some years back. I won't mention it now. I've seen that Petroleum Industry Act as a very cumbersome act. Some section of it look, in practice, look contradictory. Like I said, I can use the word now. These are textbook approach, novel approach to do things. Without looking about the practicality of what that industry. Somebody confronted me on that 2 weeks ago, just last week. Say, can this NNPC then handle the oil subsidy thing? Why should it be an NPC handling it? And I was staggered a little bit. I said, hey, wait. Does the product belong to an NPC or belongs to government? Then I went back and I said, well, NPC is a government organization. The petroleum products are also government organizations. So NPC can be the vehicle which the government will use in controlling the subsidy thing. I had believed all along, maybe with a section that has to do with host communities, which the PIA did a good job on host community. I had believed that the NNPC, as it was, if it was allowed to operate the way it was doing, we didn't need anything else, because nothing new is actually added to the host system with the B, except the host community things, and here are a few things mobile up. For me, it doesn't solve the problem. Build refineries. If you give license to a private refinery, give them 2 years. If you haven't commenced work, revoke the license. The present refineries, lease them out, preferably to the workers, and then give them the working environment. We've seen government facilities Nigeria Airways sold before, and all came to naught.
Okay, so now let's talk about the fuels consumption of PMS. We keep hearing that nobody has for quite a while now, nobody has been able to give Nigeria the total amount of fuel that we consume without estimates. So even the NNPC do not even know the amount of fuel that they consume. And then you just begin to wonder, how does businesses continue in business without stock taking and all of that? So what exactly do you think? Is there some kind of secrecy around this? And why do you have some secrecy? If you're not able to determine the total amount of fuel that is being consumed, even though we know that a lot of people do not have vehicles or generating sets to use the PMS, then how come you're able to determine the amount of that you can spend on fuel subsidy, which they've pegged around 3 trillion naira? Yeah,
that's what I've said before. You can determine the amount you pay for, but we don't have the capability to determine the amount we consume.
So that's not ever possible.
You determine the amount you pay for this way, because when the importers come in, they give you your paper, and this is how much they imported. So you have seen the amount they imported, so you can determine that. But whether that amount is submit like we're doing in those era where they were bringing fake paper, turnaround paper around, that's it. But to say the amount to consume, because if they bring 100,000 metric tons in, which if you go and inspect and it's correct 100,000 metric tons, which is genuine, you pay for it. When that 100,000 metric tons leave the depot or leave the port, where it goes to, you don't know. That's why I've talked about smuggling. So how you get to know? You don't know how many motorcycles are in the country. You don't know how many generators are in the country. You don't know how many cars. Well, maybe based on the licensing of cars, you may know an estimate of number of cars, but there are many cars, especially in rural areas, that are not licensed. And there's a state, there are some states in this country up north here, where they say you dare not ask for motorcycle license. So the motorcycles are not even licensed at all.
Okay, so is it ever possible for us to know the amount of fuel that we consume? Because now that you have the National Assembly have given the order that it should be investigated, is there anything that will come out of that?
The National Assembly is always investigating. There are things, they are used to investigating things. It's only themselves that they don't investigate themselves. So how do you get to investigate? Like what I'm saying. The thing comes out. It means you have to go to all the petrol stations to do a daily record, daily returns. Yeah, maybe you can get a daily returns of how much each petrol station, each pump dishes out.
Okay.
So if you do that, and you compile the daily returns that come from the petrol pumps, then that's okay. Then you can also go, because if you go to the depot to see how much was lifted from the depot, you may not be able to get it, because the total amount lifted from the depot do not go to the petrol station. That's why I said some will go through smuggling. So to get the accurate, it's going to be difficult. So it's the estimate based on returns from the petrol stations, which I doubt that we do regularly. And of course, before take about tankers who lift from the depot, the quantity they lift from the depot, and that's crucial, the quantity they lift from the depot to the petrol station doesn't get to the station. The tanker drivers even steal from it. No, they steal from it. They steal from it too. And then if you keep it at the petrol station for more than 3 days or 4 days, if you don't sell it quickly, you will lose not less than 50 liters or 100 liters through evaporation.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, there's also evaporation.
But then there've always been the talks that some fuel stations, they hoard the fuel, they just keep it there. So that means they're even running at a loss.
They hoard, like when they thought we were going to remove the fuel subsidy.
All of them just became
they were able to take this because the benefit from it was higher than the quantity that was going to.
So that means they deliberately cause all of this artificial scarcity.
Oh, the recent one is artificial. Oh, it's artificial.
Especially in Abuja.
Oh, in Abuja, they will just say, if you have 60,000 liters ready, which you have bought at less than 100 naira or 110 naira per liter, you just keep it. You were supposed to sell it at 162 naira per liter. Keep it. Next week or in 2 days time, they raise the price, so that one goes to 300 naira per liter. You can see how much money you were expected to make. So they are
regardless of the fact that some will be evaporated.
Yeah, because they will calculate how much we lose. Maybe we lose about 100 liters in 5 days. We can cope with that. But the government disappointed when they didn't. As it says, some boys on the road.
Exactly, the black market people.
But I pity they will stay in the sun because there's petrol everywhere. That is artificial scarcity.
All right. Even as we begin to round up very quickly now, we see that Nigeria has crude oil, but this crude oil is an international product and they're sold in dollars. So considering that our currency is declining at the moment, at the last time I checked this morning was around 428. So do you think that even if our refineries are up and running, if they're working, we can still make much savings as the crude will still continue to be sold in the international market rate?
Yes, that's what I said. If we make our refineries work, we will sell the crude to our refineries at a price we think is okay for us. It's our product. After taking the production cost of the crude and transportation to that place, we will decide how much we do. Do you know that the fuel we importing, we pay custom duties on the fuel. We pay port charges. We still pay port charges. We pay custom duties. We pay demorages for tanker. We pay a lot of things. But if we are producing locally, the highest we will pay will be excise duties, which we can even remove.
Okay.
So we won't be paying port charges, blah, 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 cabotage and all those grammar they use in shipping this thing. The hiring of tankers to bring them, we won't be paying this thing.
Okay.
So we can determine the price of the crude and then check the cost of production of the refinery itself. Then we'll be able to fix a price that will, and when we do that, Nigerians themselves will see the transparency, will bear with us. While we'll be fighting the monetary aspect of how to make the naira stronger again.
Okay.
make it another week was a deliberate attack to reduce the effect, the power, the influence, and affluence of Nigeria in Africa and among the non-allied nations of the world.
So that means you're among those people that believe that it's deliberate.
Yeah, it's deliberate because the West didn't want Nigeria to be strong.
Okay.
Nigeria was a threat to them already.
All right. I think we'll just have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for your time with us.
Thank you.
It's been a wonderful time. It's always a wonderful time having this discussion with you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. So we have been chatting with Slick Oshare. He is an oil and gas expert. Let's go on this quick break. And when we return, we'll be talking to another person to open this conversation a little bit further. I will see you in a moment.
Lease the refineries to the workers. It will be a miracle. Lease the refineries. When refinery, for example, lease it to Warri refinery workers. Lease it to them.
But you were the one person that just said that we are the same people that are complaining of refineries, modular refineries.
Not the workers there. I'm talking about the unscrupulous entrepreneurs. That's what I refer to.
Okay.
Lease the refineries to the world refinery workers. Lease it to them. Tell them, say, we lease this refinery to you for 10 years. Run it and pay us some amount of money. I bet you, those workers, they also get to get some of their workers. They will go to the people who build that refinery. It's a loan.
Glad to have you back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We are reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now we have our guest. He is Nick Agule. He is the managing director of Dominus Consulting. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great to have you. All right, now, first, let's start by getting your thought. Now, with all of the back and forth that we see as regards to the fuel subsidy and then fuel subsidy removal, first of all, it was a scam. And then later they said they have to remove fuel subsidy. Thinking that 2022 will be that fuel subsidy year, but last week it was reversed. And then the federal government came out to say that they won't be removing fuel subsidy for now because it is not timely. So what are your thoughts with all of this back and forth as regards to fuel subsidy?
Okay, thank you very much. I think the current government, when we were in the electioneering campaigns in the run-up to the 2015 general elections, did say, as you have rightly put it, that fuel subsidy is a scam. I think that was a mistake because fuel subsidy itself is not a scam. The criminality is coming in the way it is being operated. Why I say that is that all over the world, including the UK where I live, the price of diesel and petrol at the petrol stations is almost the same, with diesel slightly higher sometimes. So if in Nigeria, petrol is selling at 165 and diesel is selling at 350, there is no doubt that the price of petrol is being subsidized. So if anybody says there is no subsidy on petrol in Nigeria, they are absolutely very wrong. Nigeria is actually subsidizing petrol. But where the criminality in this subsidy regime is coming from is that nobody knows the cost of landing the products, that's petrol, in Nigeria. And nobody knows the quantity of petrol that is being consumed. So to calculate the subsidy, you need to know what is the landing cost. So if the landing cost is 280 and you are selling at 165, automatically you know that subsidy is 115, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Then you now multiply that 115 by the number of liters that have landed and have been consumed by Nigerians. That will give you the subsidy figure. That is where the criminality is coming from. Nobody knows whether it is 280 naira that is being landed, or it's 300, or it's even 170. Nobody knows that.
So is it so difficult to find out? Is it so difficult to find out the amount that is being, the landing cost, like you said?
Okay, so it is not difficult to find out the landing cost. If the people operating the system want to be transparent to Nigerians, then they should open up their books and say, this is how much we bought petrol in Singapore or in Rotterdam. This is how much it cost us to ship it to Nigeria. This is the insurance we paid on it. This is how much we pay to clear the consignment and all of the ancillary costs of bringing that petrol. Then we'll be able to convince Nigerians that this is the landing cost. But the point here is that the thing is happening in the usual way Nigerian business is carried out in government circles. The people in government think that they are our masters. They've forgotten to understand that they are our servants. We, the people of Nigeria, the citizens, are the masters. We own Nigeria, and we only send them on errands. But they are not reporting to us the way a servant reports to their master. And so the criminality involved here is that even the quantity of petrol that we are consuming, nobody knows. At the advent of this present regime, we're talking about 30 million liters. Today we're talking about 70 million liters. The question is that, has the consumption in Nigeria doubled? Have the cars on the roads doubled? Have
the generators.
The number of generators and all of the things? This is not debatable. But we don't know, but of course we are also aware that a substantial quantity of petrol that is imported into Nigeria is being smuggled across the borders. And you hear the GMD of the NNPC, you hear the Controller General of Customs, you hear the Inspector General of Police, you hear the Chief of Defense Staff, the people who should police our borders throw their hands up in the air and say they cannot police the borders and stop smuggling of petrol upon which Nigeria's money has been used to pay subsidy across the borders to the neighboring countries. So Nigeria is in effect subsidizing petrol for the entire West African region. And to make matters worse, the monies that we are using to subsidize this petrol are borrowed monies. Because last year, the Minister of Finance told us that from January to November, which is the last month she reported to us, Nigeria made 5.5 trillion as revenue. And we're not talking subsidy of 3 trillion. So that means we're saying over 60% of the money that the federal government makes is now going to be used to buy petrol and supply to the entire West African region. So this is the problem that we are facing right now. As far as this subsidy is concerned.
Okay, so very quickly, even as we begin to round up, personally, are you for or against fuel subsidy removal?
I am totally for fuel subsidy removal. And the reason why I am totally for fuel subsidy removal is that, number one, the criminality that is involved has to be eliminated. This is the same thing we faced when NITE came in. NITE was a monopoly, just like the NNPC is a monopoly importing fuel now. There were all sorts of gangsterism and racketeering and criminality and corruption in NITE. We couldn't even see the funds. By the time we opened up the sector and MTN came in, phone jumped to like 50,000. Maybe because competition came into the sector, today you can get a SIM card for 100 naira or even free. The same way we should treat the downstream sector. Open up the sector so that if anybody wants to import petrol into Nigeria, let them do so. The government should only be concerned with the quality control of that petrol. So that petrol will begin to sell at competitive prices. That is the short term. In the medium term, government has to deal with the refineries, either selling them or leasing them out. So that Nigeria will start refining the petrol that they consume. Why do we go as far as Singapore to go and buy petrol, pay salaries of people who are working in the refineries in Singapore, paying shipping costs to bring the petrol back into Nigeria? This is not the way we should run this system. Open up to the downstream sector, to private participation, so that there will be competition. It will attract investments into the sector, just like we have attracted investments of nearly $100 billion into telecoms by simply throwing it up into the private sector.
But then, Mr. Nick, you recall that recently the government gave licenses to modular refineries, but up until now we have just 2 of them working, according to some research that was made, and which both of them are even just producing Agule, that's diesel. What do you think could be the reason for that?
You have to be a Nigerian with the money to take the risk like Dangote has done, to be able to build a refinery under a subsidy regime. Nobody wants to build a refinery and then the price of the product that they are selling is being controlled by the government.
Okay.
Government is not controlling the price of food, and food is more essential to our lives than even petrol. Government is not controlling the price of medicines. Government is not even controlling the price of the cars that use the petrol. He's not even controlling the price of engine oil. I mean, with petrol alone, how can you drive a car? You must buy the car. The cars are being sold at market prices. Diesel is being sold at market prices. The spare parts are being sold at market prices. So why is government so concerned with only petrol, which on its own cannot even provide transportation to Nigerians? And the government has since removed subsidy on diesel, which is used in the productive sector. Most
and kerosene.
The trucks, the trains, the boats, and those big buses that are carrying the masses about are using diesel. Kerosene that is being used by the poor, government has since yanked it off and turned it to competition. So you will never invest by building a refinery if you are a businessman, if government is struggling and strangulating a sector and setting prices. They can just let you loose, and when investors come in, investors will start competing with each other, and just like it happened in telecom, we will buy petrol for even less than 100 naira.
All right.
This is possible.
All right. Thank you so much for your time with us, Mr. Nick Agule. It's been a wonderful time having this discussion with you.
Thank you so very much. God bless you.
All right. Thank you so much for your time with us. This is where we actually draw the curtain on today's episode of The Conversation. I will see you again next time. That's next weekend, Saturday, Sunday. Till I come your way again. From the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Annabelle Oji. God bless Nigeria.